Oh, that'll help. Yeah. It's not nice. All right, here we go. Live on YouTube. Sharon, this mic is all yours. Oh, there's my
Wow.
buddy, Carrie.
Now, Spirit, who's here? Karen?
Carrie.
Okay. Hi, Carrie. Hi, sweetie. So this is one of her things. I'll start out with Wapnick in a little bit, but Spirit brought me to Without the Judge. So she writes, in last week's article, I mentioned how without ego, there's no longer judgment in this mind on Liz's thoughts, feelings, and actions. I will elaborate here. Throughout her life, Liz was often moved to do things Liz was often moved to do things the reason for which she didn't understand at the time. She often had thoughts or feelings ego didn't want, that ego said weren't consistent with who she was or where somehow wrong or bad. Sometimes she was surprised by the words that came out of her mouth or how they came out. These occurrences would lead to a thunderous amount of internal judgment from the ego. I thought she was going to talk about the election in this, but I don't know if she does. You know what? This isn't the one because this is without the judge. For me, it's about the election and the person. That's the one. Okay. So I'm going to teach myself because I can't hear this stuff enough. If I fall back, I have not been absolutely inclined to watch anything on the election, which is just progress, I guess, because there was like an addiction going on. But anyway, she wrote the election and this person. In a couple of months, the Republican House and Senate of this nation will begin to legislate this country into a Christian autocracy, dictatorship. Now, I don't know if she knows that or not. I'd have to ask her. But, that's what they're threatening. But which side they're threatening,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Knowing,
I mean, that's just conjecture. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So
right.
why would you know what's going to happen in a couple of months?
Right.
We don't.
Right. Knowing that Liz here values a democratic republic and one that separates church and state, some have asked how this person has responded to the election since she has shifted consciousness. To explain, I will backtrack a bit. At this shift, what I call the ontological ego fell away. This means that the experience of existence that was here is gone. That experience of existence was that consciousness and ego are reality. What remained to slowly wind down was what I call the psychological ego, which is what one normally thinks of as ego, the guilt and the fear, the judgmental and attacking thoughts. After several difficult years of ego rising fully to conscious awareness, this consciousness has become quieter, more open and lighter as the power of psychological ego has diminished greatly as it continues to fall away. But it is still here, if rather shrunken. And a few months ago, it began showing up as a very uncomfortable emptiness for which there's no remedy. Ego squirms against its inherently empty nature. I have written often since the shift about how the person and ego are not the same. The person is a neutral expression of consciousness. Ego is like something that has inserted itself into consciousness and claimed the person for itself. This has become clearer as ego falls away because Liz's thoughts, feelings, and actions simply arise and pass through this consciousness now. What is gone is what used to judge those thoughts, feelings, and actions as it claimed them for itself. For example, ego used to say things like, that is not very spiritual, or you should not feel this way. You should not feel this. You should be more spiritually advanced than this. That this has gone missing shows me again how Liz is merely an expression in consciousness, a character in a story. And it was never her distinct thoughts and opinions and actions that were ego, but the judgments on them that were ego. So that's like we're looking at the neutral thing, that this whole thing, and then she's talking about her interpretations. Wouldn't you say that, Lynn? You probably walked away. Okay. Recently, I moved, and for some reason, I really have no idea. This gave ego something on which to project its emptiness, or really just bad feelings of all kinds. And there were a lot of physical attacks that I came to see clearly were ego's resistance to the move. Too. Whatever the feelings, emotional, psychological, or physical, I let them be. And as I sat with them, it became increasingly obvious that the feelings were here in this consciousness, and their source was not the move or anything else. There were bad feelings here in this consciousness because ego is still here, and it is a bad feeling experience. Ego projected the source of bad feeling onto the move to not see that it was the source of its bad feelings. So it's just this projector. Wait a minute. Let me see if you're here, Lynn, because I don't know if you walked away or you probably went to get a cup of coffee.
Oh, I'm here. You can talk to me.
Okay, Carrie. So, hi,
Yeah, I'm here. I was
Carrie.
just putting on my robe.
Okay, because what she's basically saying, see, and now she's talking really about our interpretations. If we didn't interpret anything, we would just see these objects and not know what the hell was here. Because we really aren't these objects. So okay, so then she says, obviously, this is not news to me. I've known ego projects for 40 years. It has just never been small enough for me to sit with the feelings, see that they are right here and nowhere else, and watch as ego projects onto something outside to deny it is the source of them. And that's what it's always doing. Like that Donald Trump. I'm telling you, that's who's causing me this. That's all it is. It's and I'm projecting this guilty party when it's my guilt that I'm just projecting onto him. And so it was with the election. In this case, I understood why the projections were occurring where they were, because Lizzie's values were being challenged, giving ego something more to grab onto. But my response was the same as it was with the move. I allowed the thoughts and feelings and even expressed my grief and concerns over the election with others, but with no judgment on any of this. It is clear this time that at the bottom of grief is guilt, but that is simply to say that ego is still here, since guilt is the experience of the ego. The feelings at first were very strong, and it was a longer process of letting ego spew into my mind and sometimes with others, because I was able to access more than intellectually the awareness that all these thoughts and feelings are in this consciousness and have nothing to do with what is appearing. Very interesting. Like these are good contemplations. Because when you see, like, I can go on a run about, my beliefs or my opinions about who's running for president, who won for the president. And with that, it's not wrong or bad when I do that. I don't have a backlash either now where the ego saying, well, you're not supposed to say that. He's not there. It's your guilt. No, I make it real clear. I don't like the man, but he's running and there must be a higher cause for him to. I mean, he's going to be a president and there must be a higher cause. And for me, I feel as though it is to break us open, because there's every little thing that this character that's president-elect has demonstrated is all our thoughts. We all have those thoughts. It's just that he's nuts to say them, right? Because there's only one hologram. This hologram is all of us are seeing our thoughts out there, and then that's our guilt, and then we're hating what's not really real. But then I can go on and say, well, I'm affected. Look at all the children. Well, that's true. There's a part in this mind, of course, that is very concerned about immigrants. Why? Because I feel like we're all immigrants. But again, that's the ego trying to get its way back in me to say, you're not caring like you used to, that kind of thing. So it's so tricky, and this is why it's a process. So she's, it is clear this time that at any bottom, okay, she said the feelings at first were very strong, and it was for a while a longer process of letting ego stew in my mind and sometimes with others before I was able to access more than intellectually the awareness that all these thoughts and feelings are in this consciousness and have nothing to do with what is appearing. This process shortened within a few days and has rarely been necessary since. It is also clear that if Liz had other values and like the election outcome, ego would simply project its inherent discomfort onto other things, perhaps illegal immigrants and transgender women. Liz is just a neutral expression of consciousness, a character in the story, unfolding in time and consciousness with her own thoughts, feelings, values, and preferences. She has a role to play in the larger story, but with the ego gone, there's nothing to identify with her, so nothing to judge her. Because that's our machine is always judging. Sharon, like, oh my God, you don't want to say that in a group because then everybody will know that you still have your ego. It's the kind of shit that the ego throws at us. It is it is as though Liz is a piece in a puzzle. When ego was here, it was focused on the puzzle piece alone. With ego gone, Liz is revealed as part of a greater whole. She does not exist in a vacuum. Her thoughts, feelings, values, opinions, and actions are all expressions of the greater whole. And so it is with everyone else. So the response, like, I guess what I'm seeing in this is basically that, of course, she had a preference. I mean, her background, she is, somebody who is very open and what appears in this seeming world right now is that a closed system has come into our government. And there's going to be rules and a lot of things that are hostile, but they're concepts. And these concepts have to be seen through. Because, I have not felt I guess I was away at my son's for a week in Philly, and we didn't even really bring it up, the election. And that's what he did for the last couple of years, actually, because he was working in Europe on fascism, and then he worked here on fascism. And, even with everything he knows, he still doesn't know what will happen. So, Lynn, you're correct in saying that nobody knows really. I mean, if there will be, that's the threat. And we don't have to sign on with it because we can just stay neutral in our going inward. And even if we shout and say, oh, I can't believe they're doing that, that does not affect the I am presence. When the I am comes in, it's here to stay. And the character that I play is usually highly emotional, sensitive. So it's like, no, of course I'm not going to want people to hurt, But at the same time, if we look at it from a higher level, this is for us. And the only thing we're required to do, or at least for me, I'm required to do is be patient. So when I started to hyperventilate, and that happened right after Donald Trump won, somebody will say, well, that's why. No, that is not why. That is, I'm taking a class with Corinne Zuko. It started this week, and it's on the clairs. And what's happening for me now is the root chakra. And this is also, the book that she wrote is For A Course in Miracles, but it's the clairs. And I tried to, I talked to her over the years about, she was on John Monday, and she had a teacher that I think a lot of, but this woman, and I have her books and everything, but the teacher itself was not a course teacher. So what Corinne did was she went inward and realized that she would like to teach herself these clairs. And with doing that, now she's sharing it with all of us. Now I have today, like, children and the class, parents and children in the most difficult classroom. And when I get better at this, because really it's going to take a while, this is another way, like if we talk about clairvoyance, that's intuitive seeing. That's that we know. We don't know why we know, but we know. And then there's clairaudience, intuitive hearing. So for me, when Helen or Regina were scribes, I thought that they had more than I did. And I had beliefs that the ego gave me, but nobody has more of anything. But the time that it takes here is not directed any way by the person. This is all about wholeness waking up. And there's really only one awakening, right? So clairaudience, intuitive hearing, you hear something and you know it goes deeper, right? And then claircognizance, intuitive knowing. And that's really what the knowing is. The knowing. Now, she's saying basically in these teachings that you don't need an audible voice to be connected. And I guess we all know that. But for me, because I've had some physical issues, really, and I was brought to the chakras years ago when I went to Dietrich's work because my crown opened. And I kept asking teachers like Liz and Regina, does that have anything to do with awakening? At the time, that was not part of their teaching, so they said no. But it absolutely is. When the head chakra opened up, and that was probably about 9-10 years ago in Colorado, it's making its way down. But awakening is not linear. You can wake up in a spot and then not come back to it for however long it takes. And that's why I always am very clear on the fact that wherever somebody is, meet them there. Because you know nothing about that other person. You are projecting them. So what I tend to do and be conscious of is to stay in the presence, in the silence. Because we all know what the book's saying. And it's just a matter of just owning at the moment where we are, because we are all over the place. We don't stop. I mean, this is limitless consciousness. We are limitless, right? So there really is no Sharon or Trump or Kerry or Lynn. There's only God. And this is already over. And the only way I can explain that is it's a virtual reality. It's a movie. And it's not like I've been here. It'll be 70 years on January 14th. And I have absolutely not been here 70 years. But again, you know, the person that's still living in me believes it has. So that's you know, what I found in the course, in studying the courses in the beginning, when people would say, watch your mind, that was real hard for me. What I did was I just have an audio learner, so I just listened. Other teachers, the course, different teachings that I felt called to do. And if you're not called to do something, it's not for you. It's that simple. You can't do this wrong, you know. Now, there was a thing that I really enjoyed that Spirit brought me to Corinne, and she's very sensitive and very empathic. And for me, that works. And many reasons why. I mean, I had a family that was not very always sensitive to what they said to each other. And I think it was always I ended up copying them in I guess it was my 30s, because I had a lot of therapy. But I found that some of the things that would come out of my mother's mouth would be like, oh my God, how could she say that to me? That kind of thing. Yet she's not really there. She's a shadow in my mind of my hatred. But it's all coming together, and it comes together only now. So what I used to do is do you know who's awake? Oh my God, Helen. Helen is this, Helen is that. Or Regina was a scribe. And that's what ego does. It puts people on a pedestal, and then it'll push them down. They'll do something and it'll piss the ego off. And then it tells everybody about it. So it's all a game we're playing with ourselves 24/7. Because the only relationship that we ever really have is the one we have with God. You know, the ego is nothing. It's a voice in our head that's, you know, not necessarily, not ever our friend, really. You know, it's just important. Now, what I admire, and I'm going to mention Marianne Williamson, I have her new book on Audible. It's phenomenal. Yet she participates in the world. That's a calling. That's not her decision. She's part of the whole. And that's just a calling. I sometimes feel called, you know, in some ways when I have, you know, somebody in my life that's going to, whether it be an immigrant or transgender or gay or any of this, it does rise up in my consciousness and says, who the hell are they to decide who somebody should love? But that is part of our story because this whole thing is love or a call for love. That's all it is, all day long. Somebody had put this out and I wanted to read it. It's called First Corinthians, a Christmas version. If I decorate my house perfectly with plaid boughs, strands of twinkling lights, and shiny balls, but do not show love to my family, I'm just another decorator. If I slave away in the kitchen, baking dozens of Christmas cookies, preparing gourmet meals, and arranging a beautifully adorned table at mealtime, but do not show love to my family, I'm just another cook. If I work at the soup kitchen, carol in the nursing home, and give all that I have to charity, but do not show love to my family, it profits me nothing. See, I always feel like in order, as the undoing takes place, we all played a different part. Some of us were very angry egos, some of us were more sensitive egos, and none are better. But the consciousness that I've always been in is I don't want to meet people with hate because I know how that feels. And I'm only seeing my own mind. And what I have come to see is that I was married, my first marriage was to a narcissist, and it was only there that I found out that the narcissist lives in me because he was mirroring all my hidden shades. And this is because, like, the way my consciousness was is that I was very nice and I always looked for the good. But we are one mind. And if Donald Trump's out there, we have him in us. So we are no different. And if we look at it like that, it's therapeutic. Anyway, in other words, love stops the cooking to hug a child. Love sets aside the decorating to kiss the spouse. Love is kind, though harried and tired. Love doesn't envy another's home that has coordinated Christmas china and table linens. Love doesn't yell at the kids to get out of the way. Love doesn't give only to those who are able to give in return, but rejoices in giving to those who can't. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Video games will break. Pearl necklaces will be lost. Golf clubs will rust. But the gift of love will endure. So to stop, years ago when I started to feel I was like getting further along, I asked Holy Spirit, how will I talk to you? And what came up was, what would God say and what would God do? I never followed that. But when that was given to me, it wasn't necessarily for that time. Because whenever you have wisdom, that's the one thing that doesn't disappear. So now it is, what would love say and what would love do? Unconditional love of God is always non-judgmental. It's just an isness, right? So anyway, I'm now bringing myself to look at Terry or Lynn. Do you want to participate in any way? I mean, I know you're here all day, so I don't
Hey
know that you.
Sharon, can I say something?
Yeah.
This is Regis.
Hi, Regis. Oh, I love you. I
I
didn't know you
love,
were here. I'm on my
yeah,
phone.
I love you too. You just been exciting me with all your words.
Oh, thank you.
They have been so perfect. I just appreciate them. You know, you I know you heard me say many times, but everything you're saying is just reminding me of what I love to quote that song. It's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Uh,
Right. It's
because like you
always me.
say, all the Jacob Glass once said this. He said, if somebody irritates you, upsets you, make you afraid or angry or whatever, he says, just talk about them as bad as you can. Say everything you want to say about them, and then at the end of saying all of that, say, just like me.
Exactly. There
You
couldn't be
know,
a better teaching.
yeah. And if we do that, you know, I watched, I look at Donald Trump and people, and I mean, I see us every day. You still go out in the work world. I work with these teachers,
I
and
work like you. Yeah, I'm
I
doing what
watch
you're
them.
doing.
I watch
Um,
them bad mouth the principal, talk about every decision that the school is making. And what I notice, even here, just even down to my household, there are times when individuals just want what they want, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, fair or not fair. They just want what they want. They'll say whatever they want to say to think that they think they'll say to get it. They'll manipulate. They'll stretch the truth. They will exaggerate. they will. They, they
and
will.
that's me too, because I
Yeah,
have done that. I
yeah.
mean, when I'm
Just like
you're
me.
cool,
So,
right? Just like
uh,
me, because I
we
mean,
get if we
yeah,
late paying a bill, and the bill collector wants us to pay an extra $30, $15 if we late for a doctor's appointment. Uh, we get mad. We badmouth them. We don't want to pay it, but that's because we want what we want, and we don't care about the rules. We don't care that we knew this in advance. we don't. We just,
right.
we just throw temper tantrums, and when we kind of really see it that way, we'll step back. Uh, we allow that space in us to be healed, uh, and we have to remember when I heal me, I heal the world. So
Right.
even with a guy that we think is a big threat, when we see ourselves in that, and then we allow ourselves grace, and we allow ourselves to be healed, we allow our own mind to be changed. On a weekly basis, almost a daily basis, uh, I have a change of mind about my wife. you know,
Of course.
she'll
Yeah.
she'll say something, she'll do something, and I'll go. My mind will go into attack mode, just like Trump go into attack mode over Joe Biden, or Joe Biden go into attack mode over Donald Trump.
Right.
And then I'll step back and like, okay, okay, Regis, get get down off your high horse. But it's just, uh, but when we allow ourselves to be healed, as the Course in Miracles says, when we heal one, we heal all. So while we can allow the ego thought system to cause us to be in a panic and a rage over something, the opposite is also true. When I allow myself to heal, when I allow myself to have a change of mind, I am allowing that change of mind and change of heart for Donald Trump. And no, it doesn't matter when I have that thought at the end of the day. I said, well, it doesn't matter, that he's president. uh, just like I can have a change of heart, so can he. I told my wife, we was talking a couple of days ago. I said, you remember, he can't do everything that he want to do. He tried to get rid of Obamacare, but was he successful? No. He took it to the Supreme Court the last time he was president, and everybody thought the Supreme Court was rigged, that he had all the people in the Supreme Court that he wanted, and this Supreme Court still voted to keep Obamacare. So we have
I hope
to,
they do. Yeah, I would be. I
so
mean, I
we have
still
to
have like
remember.
a little bit of
Yeah,
an investment here because I
yeah.
can't lie to you, but I am moving further deeper. That's all.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. But as we see ourselves, as you were saying, and everything that you were saying, even when, like you said, we set people up on a pedestal,
Right.
and that's just another way to separate. Sometimes we think we're being loving and spiritual by putting this teacher or that teacher or this person on a pedestal and admiring them. We think, oh, that's such a sweet thing for me to do, and such a sweet, but we're still just falling into the ego's trap of separation. And as fast as you said, as we put that person on the pedestal, then we come back and knock them off. and,
Yeah, that's just
and what we do when we knock them off, we horrify ourselves. You know, now
oh
this
my
person,
God. And it becomes a story that I'll call people. You know what she did?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's funny because I was like with two teachers that are very different in personalities than me. I mean, Regina, and then there was Helen Hamilton. They just aren't like I'm bubbly and very warm. That's just the way I was since I'm a kid. So,
yeah.
when they were like strict with me, it was almost like, oh my God, I don't know if I like it here. I was like, because I wasn't looking at where I'm like that.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. See, I had a tough script and I also had an easy one.
Yeah.
Because in my script, I very rarely played the bitch that I am inside. I was always like, oh, I understand, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like Lynn, I guess, that kind of like, just being pleasant. Because my mother had a lot of mental health issues. And the two people that got me into this are my projections of myself were my mother and my ex-husband. So
Yeah.
I would have to share a funny story with you now. My ex-husband took everything, and there were like millions. He was in the stock market. I didn't make millions. I had a really good art school though that was pretty well known in the area, and he just flipped. I mean, if his script was he was an options trader, and you're going to play options. You're playing with what he thought the money was like candy, so he'd lose a million. Well, anyway, we finally got a company to go public, and it ended up being 3 million. And he started to hate me. It was just something that happened when I hit about 35, but I really hated him. I hated him. He didn't want to be with the kids. He wanted to go clubbing. He loved to talk, comment about other women's bodies and all the things that I would never do like that with men or admit to it was what was he was doing. So in essence, my son said I did well because I fought him for 9 years and I ended up getting $1,900 for 10 years. And that was probably 200,000. But the ego said, well, that's not 3 million. Well, that kept me going. And I found the course already. So it was fine. I was okay. However, I have a child and I'm very maternal. Sharon is extremely maternal. So my youngest boy was in addiction and he would not help his own son and blah, blah, blah. So he was playing a real bad movie character. He would call me up and threaten my life. I'd have to call the police on him. I mean, this guy really lost it. And so I ended up, when the state caught up with him, they were giving me $100,000 over another 10 years or something per month because he didn't pay support. And my lawyer, and especially the woman that was in charge of, I guess, in Montgomery County, they knew me in there because, again, nice Sharon comes in pleasant, meanwhile inside I'm like, I'm broke. I can't believe he did this to me, that kind of thing. But anyway, so my husband now couldn't believe this guy was treating me like that after he did what he did to me, blah, blah, blah. So he goes, that's it. I want you to I'm telling you this for your mental health. I want you to tell them you don't want the money, so he will stay away. And I will put that kind of money in your name so you'll feel secure. Of course, he did that. And my husband's a money phobe. So when he did that, I knew I was never going to take it out. But don't you know that my ego a couple weeks ago came out and said, because he always worries about money. And we have enough money, and I'm substituting. But he had like a temper tantrum about the bills. So I said, well, if you didn't give that money back to Ronnie, and that is how sick the ego is. It's my dream, and I know that. He's nothing, right? I'm dreaming about Sharon and Cliff, and I am the one that wanted all of it. But as the one son, as the wholeness, it's not a separate, it's not a separate awakening. Like, I would walk around and say, that one's awake. Oh, I wish I could be there. Meanwhile, you're always awake because there's no you. So all you're doing now, or all I'm doing, is getting rid of the crazy voice talking to itself. But sometimes I fall into forgetfulness. And that's what happened when Donald Trump won. When he won, I was going to teach and I went to school and I had a pain in my heart. It was anxiety and it kept growing. And it was like, and I definitely was absolutely shocked that he won because I made her my girlfriend in my mind. She was beautiful to look at. She was warm and loving. She was a woman of color. I'm an artist. I'm very open-minded. I like everyone to be treated the same, right? So here I am wishing that she would win and she doesn't win. And I'm taking it like it's me that didn't win. But I start hyperventilating. And I did that for about a week. I had to go to the doctors a couple times. And what I realized was I hyperventilated as a little girl. My parents were my mother having polio and mental health issues, the kind of screaming I witnessed as a child was so scary to this little girl that the hyperventilating I did again. So the dream of Sharon is always about breathing. And I don't even know that I'm making sense right now. Maybe Regis, you can tell me, but when I go back in time, the way I came in this world is the cord was wrapped around my neck and my mother was paralyzed. So it's always about the breath. And I do breath work now. So it's kind of like it's all now coming together. But yes, Regis, I can be so freaking nasty and then not own it and say, well, he made me do it. And now, as the year is coming to an end, there's something in me that's saying, you need more help. So I have a trauma therapist I'm seeing for EMDR, because I'm not like, sometimes Holy Spirit will use that, or Spirit will use anything, but it happens in our own seeming time. So I am going to start that too, because there was a lot that happened. And obviously I was a great repressor. All I did was repress my anger. My sister, my older sister, was very volatile and I didn't want her to get in trouble. So she had a lot of issues. She would punch me, hit me. I would never tell anybody because I was so afraid to get anybody in trouble or disappoint anyone, all of that. And it was always me. And around 10 years, I guess it's 9 years ago, if Lynn's listening, we went to Diedrich and Regina's retreat. And that's when my crown opened. But I want to say that it seems like Sharon, made the dream, but no, consciousness made the dream. And there's a familiarity in all of us that we know that's true. And as the Course says, you will remember God. And there's a remembering coming through of just this stillness. There's nothing here but love. But the kind of love that we're still in, which is really in heaven, it's not this world right now is a reflection of heaven, right? Just this awareness. But the thing about awakening is, if I had known this, it's just allow it. But we don't, at least I didn't do that. When I started to hyperventilate, I started to panic. Why? Because it brought up memories of death, I guess. And when Donald Trump won, that was my own self-hatred. And I saw my self-hatred through my life because I've had some really difficult depressions. And when somebody like really wants not to live anymore or just becomes so violent in their head, you see how much the ego hates itself. But there's no Sharon. Sharon's talking as if she was real, but she's just a voice in consciousness. And that's all we're doing. Every day is just seemingly waking up, unwinding this ridiculous mind. And I still have judgments. I mean, I do feel sometimes that it helps to have a spiritual teacher that knows their psychology. And that's why I like Wapnick so much, because he's a psychologist. I like when you deal, because my psychology was very, very challenging, as most people. Anyway, anybody want to share?
Yeah, Sharon, I'm so it's so cool to hear this, and because I've been going through pretty much the same thing, and so it's just the idea. First I want to go back, and I believe in a democratic republic also, and so the fact is that the voters voted, and that was who was elected. I can't argue with that. Because I believe that that's how our government's supposed to work. People want you, they're going to vote for you. If they don't want you, they're not going to vote for you. I mean, as much as it upsets me that they didn't like who I wanted, it doesn't matter because that's how the government works. And we set it up that way. And the breathing thing, yeah, because I've been having a terrible time breathing and pretty much think I have pneumonia. I'm going to go to the doctor today and hopefully get more life-saving drugs, etc. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've been that way my whole life too. And I had trauma when I was a child that made me terrified of not being able to breathe. And so I had, asthma my whole life and a lot of breathing issues. And so it's interesting that, we're parallel in that. And we're parallel in so many things, you and I.
Yes,
Um,
and we wouldn't be together if we weren't. See, because
oh, I
we're
know.
being moved, right?
It's
It's so perfect. Yes.
so perfect. And yeah, I had a big opening after that Diedrich workshop too. I mean, that was a huge opening for me. That is what really kind of knocked me off of the um, I wouldn't say I was on the Regina train because I really, you know, I'm such a skeptic, that I never actually believed any of that stuff other than, this is good stuff and it's coming through all of us and everybody has it. So, but uh uh I think a big part of my uh problem that I'm having now, that I've been having now with my breathing, is because you and I had a little bit of an argument. And
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
And that there's been a part of me arguing with you in my mind since.
Well,
And
that's what
even
my mind does. It does it on Regina. It really does. It just is so mad at her for saying the things she said, and I want to be right, blah, blah, blah. And when I
yeah,
got mad at you, it's because everybody always corrected me.
yeah,
And that was just something as a child. Now, that's not my adult. My adulthood people didn't do that. It was all what's going on for me now is my very young years, because it's moving deeper into those chakras, which is your sacral and your root. And
right.
it's just, and you have to be gentle because you will hurt somebody. Luckily, when I got mad at you was because I thought there's a belief I'm stupid. Well, of course I have that belief. My whole 6 years of school was, they didn't know what I had. And they just put me in these classes. I was still mainstream because I'm normal. And the other thing is I was very emotionally intelligent. But that horrible feeling I got when the teacher would say back in 1960, these are the students that failed. And there'd always
Yeah,
be me right there. And so you see,
that's
that's
horrible.
what's right. And that happens. Corinne Zupko on Sunday was saying, if any of you leave here, I want to just share with you that you might get triggered from something from your past when you're in a group, because that's what it's really there for. But she was trying to tell her group that that's just for us to be aware, because I had a lot of stuff in Awakening Together. I had so many judgments. It was all about me not being good enough. Now, whether or
Huh.
not that was the right group or not, I don't think it was, because I've moved into this, back into this, and I kind of just stick with what my guidance is now. Where before, I kind of wanted a shortcut. Let me say it like that. John was on drugs. I had to get the hell out of this mind because I couldn't calm it down. I tried and I tried, but I couldn't, because I wasn't gonna. I said, God, listen, you took everything, but you're not taking my kid. And I kept saying that. So it's so inside me that I used Awakening Together was a place to just listen to clarity, but also I had so much ego. But coming back together was because that's where I really started. It was kind of
Right.
like that was right. And so, yeah, we have a lot. And my ego keeps going off on, I should just tell them about how they treated me during the time that my son was sick. This is what the ego's doing. So Saturday night, I was at Andrew's, we were leaving, and he goes, Mom, why is my mind keep saying like about the people that just hurt me? I said, well, you know the answers, because actually Andrew was the one that actually got me into this stuff when he was a senior, because I was like really upset about what happened to me. And he said, you don't have to go there, go to truth. So everyone is playing their everyone. And I'm
That's right.
sorry if I offended you, but I'm not mad at anyone but my own self. And
You
I'm
couldn't
mad at
have offended
myself.
me. That's the thing. You know,
Right.
there's no me here to be offended.
Right.
That's what I had to realize. Oh my gosh. Not that
Yeah, but my mind still talks about the people. Like, I want to tell Regis, I know you like her teachings, but she can be a bitch, and she can. Guess what?
and
So
he
can
knows
I.
it,
Yeah.
but that's what is the funny thing is that that's me. I'm that same person.
Right.
So I am a bitch also, among other things.
A lot of things we have to be. There's no way a hologram can be any different.
But
A
here's
hologram is seeing only itself all the time.
yeah.
And the victim, there's a certain joy that the ego gets in being a victim. And so that was an addiction, and it's probably still there. I'll have to be conscious of it. But I'm laughing a lot more. But I'm glad you actually shared this today because I love you. I was so comfortable with you because I love and everybody on here, but I often with people that like I'm just going to say it, like people that are in their head intellectually so much fun, I sometimes judge them. My ego does because I'm not
Yeah.
like that. And it's just
And it's a way of just seeing they're not worthy to be in that position.
right.
And
That's exactly it. Yeah, because it's my unworthiness. I mean, that is what's coming up. I said to Corinne on Sunday, because she did a meditation, I said, and a woman from England and myself both said our unworthiness was coming up, and that's a good thing because
yeah,
it's not like Ken Wapnick always taught. It's a process. It's not, it's a process. That's all it is. And what does that really mean? We can push this stuff down at each other's throat, but we want to be here with all our brothers and sisters because this is simple, but it's just not easy always,
yeah,
especially when
no.
it comes to vulnerability. It's. So some
And if
people,
it
I don't
was
know how.
easy, it wouldn't be
Yeah,
worth. I mean, it wouldn't work if it was easy. If we found a way
right,
that
right.
was yeah, no,
But isn't the
it
mind
wouldn't.
funny? It wants to distract you on anything that you put attention on in the past. So it keeps doing that. I love everybody the same as the Christ. Now, do I prefer certain people? Absolutely. I will not. I love my mother, but I wouldn't want to live with her again. She was a tough cookie. And my ex-husband, no way would I live with him. But that's on me. So what I'm doing now is kind of like journaling it out. I'm the bitch. I'm the one, that we all have such hidden sins. No, it's secret sins and hidden hates.
Yeah,
And they come up as they come up. So, I was upset the day that I couldn't breathe and then Karen called me and Gloria, and they were just real loving towards me. And I got mad at you, not because you didn't call me, but because I thought you were judging me for crying when crying is equal to laughter because it's all happening in this field. So when someone's crying, it's just to me, look, what they did in Awakening Together when I was crying about Don is they were strong arming me. And I was taking it because that's how I am. That's how I was as a child. But boy, when the bitch comes forward, it comes forward. And then it's like, oh God, I didn't know she was like that. And
yeah.
that's what I'm seeing now, but it's taken a while. So I'm glad we spoke today because I wouldn't want any of that. And there's Carrie. Oh, hi, Carrie. Such
Oh
a
my
sweet thing.
goodness.
Now, I think it's a photograph of Carrie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a
And
photograph. Yeah.
Sharon, one of the things that I like that you said, I've heard you say this word, and sometimes I just pick up on things, but you've mentioned putting people on a pedestal at least 3 or 4 times. That's why you
Oh,
were talking this morning. And that is so key. Now, the thing about me, and I told my wife this even as a Christian, I said, I would never, my faith is never shaken by if some pastor evangelist uh, fall off the wagon and get caught doing something with their hands in the cookie jar. I said, because I don't, I just don't, I'm just thankful. I don't do that. I don't drink the Kool-Aid. It's like, so whether it's Regina or whoever, yes, I may admire their teaching. I may love their teaching, but I still know that they're in a body having a human experience.
right.
I don't ever forget that. So it doesn't, uh, I don't look for them to have a perfect human to human experience. I don't look to them I
That's
look to them to
wonderful.
have to them to have all the shortcomings and frailties that I do. I look to them to have to mind their mind every day just like I do. I look to them to when we put people on a pedestal, and like you said this morning, there is that tricky part of thinking they're a little bit better than me. That's the whole danger of it. Is oh, because on some level we decide that they are better than us. But when my wife and I met, she knew me by my reputation before she ever saw me or knew what I looked like. because in the environment we was in, people were talking about me. They were talking about me positively. They were talking about what a great guy he is, what a great this he is. And so she didn't even know who I was. So when I met her, she already thought I was better than she was. She
Mm.
thought she was beneath me in a lot of different ways. And
Yeah.
so the belief that this guy could love her and want her in his life was a problem. It was a problem in our marriage for a while, uh, because you put me. So I'm already on this pedestal, and now you living with me. You see that I'm not perfect. You see that I do everything that every other guy does, that every other human being does. I, I have the same temperaments. I have to say stuff that I didn't mean and apologize. I have to, I have to raise my voice and then apologize for it, just like everybody else. So that that pedestal thing that you keep mentioning this morning, we can really see that slippery slope. It's still separation. We may think, oh, in our heart, we romanticize putting someone on a pedestal. We think, oh, I think so much of them and they're so wonderful and they're so great. But it's still separation. And it's still that sneaky undercurrent that, oh, they're a little bit better than me and I'm not good enough. And so as soon as that person does something or says something that triggers us and puts us on guard, we think, oh, I'm being attacked. You're saying you're smarter than me. You're saying you're better than me. You're saying you're more this than me. And that person is really not saying that at all. It's just that trap that we really, as Dove say, the secret to salvation. And I know Dove didn't make the quote; he read it from the course. But the secret to salvation is that we're doing it to ourselves. We set the whole thing up. We put them on the pedestal, and we set the whole thing up for us to at some point in time to be deeply hurt or disappointed.
Yeah,
That's
but it's a
hilarious.
trap, and I do it, unconsciously, like it's just such a trap. But Regis, you've been such a great teacher. Everybody on here has been a great teacher for me, because I had I had before I came back together, I was having a war with myself, pretty much, because I was feeling like I don't fit in. I don't know how to use the computer like they do. It's just so funny. It's
It is
hilarious.
funny. I was going to just say something, Regis. After we met Tracy, we said, man, Regis is a lucky man because she is an amazing person. And I think it's funny that, because it's all this perceptions, not that I don't think you're a great guy, but, she's amazing. And, you're lucky
Well,
to
we all
have her.
hate ourselves. Let's be honest. I mean, we
I
have to,
know.
because if we hate somebody out there, like I did not, I used Donald Trump as a way to help me. Like if I put him on, then I see that I still have like my pain coming through. Like, okay, so I still believe he's out there. So then I have to do more stuff. Give it to
Yeah.
spirit, give it to,
I
because
put them
he's
on and
not
I
out there.
laugh now. I'm laughing at all. It's like this
I'm
is
not
an
there so much.
unending clown car. The whole, those clown cars in the circus where it opens up and clown after clown after clown after clown comes out of
Yeah.
there. I'm looking at this as an unending clown car. It's like every day it's like some new, crazy thing. And it's like, oh my God, I'm laughing my butt off at it. Because yes, I know that nothing is going to go wrong. Nothing is going to, everything that's happening now already happened. We're just watching it from a distance and imagining that it's happening right now and to us. But, the course tells us it all happened a long time ago. And I've been listening to a lot of Ken Wapnick, who really reaffirms that for me every day. This is not happening now.
Right.
The story was written long ago, and it's just up to me to decide what do I want to believe about it. And if I want to believe that, yep,
I
it's
love what
it's
you
bad
just
and I'm
said. That
gonna hurt.
is so good. You just said that. What do I want to believe? Because I feel like I get trapped
Yeah.
more than I wish I did, because I'm a drama queen, in case you haven't noticed. I mean,
No.
it's like, how could they not have me?
And I just have to laugh. It's hilarious. And I look at it, and of course I've got this whole thing too now that this FAFO, fuck around and find out, because I can see that, everything that people thought were going to happen after the election, and what's going to happen in this country. There's a lot of people that think, this great thing is going to happen and that great thing is going to happen. And or this, they have this whole idea of what they thought was going to happen. And I have a feeling that, none of it's going to happen, because, that's, he didn't do anything the first time. Really, I mean, there was no, whatever they imagined was going on in the world, in this country, really wasn't happening at all, and nothing changed. And so now we got another 4 years of the same thing, and I'm just laughing at all of it. There they are. Regis
Who's
and
that? Oh, is that? I
That's-
never saw her. Tracy, she doesn't want to come on here, Regis. She's gorgeous.
she is gorgeous.
So is he. Both of you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Yeah, they're gorgeous. I guess
Yeah.
she doesn't like groups. A lot of people don't. I saw that too. Like,
Well, she's a full-time employee. So
yeah, she's working probably at work right now.
she's at work right now, exactly. So in
oh my
yeah,
God, she's a beauty.
but that is something on my mind, Sharon, and me, and I know that I'm gonna try to coordinate either one of the evenings, like Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, or something, and try to see if we can share in one of those groups together.
Oh, I would
that
love to meet
that
her.
is something that's
Yeah.
been in my mind. So I appreciate you speaking it out loud, so I can be more proactive about making that happen.
Yeah, because the thing is, like when you share, Regis, I'm like, you were just what I needed when I came back into Gather. Remember, Gather wasn't on Zoom, so I was in there awakening together
Pal
too.
Talk. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd go into Pal Talk. Every Thursday I was with Dub. I didn't care. I wasn't going to go away from there. But it's a perfect design. It just looks like it's not. It looks like it, because I look out there and I'm like, oh, she's so organized. If they only knew what I'm like, because I really am a very typical artist, throwing things, just painting, abstract, whatever. And now I'm seeing
Yeah.
it
Oh,
all
Dove
is.
had his hand up a minute ago. I don't know if he still wanted
Yeah,
to share.
Doug, come back, come back, come back, come back, wherever you are.
I see him right
Doug,
there.
where are you?
Well, I
Doug,
don't know.
Doug. I'll call him.
What?
There
No,
he
What?
is. You
What?
had your hand up. We
We
want
saw
to
you
know
had
what
your hand up.
Well, okay. I actually I wrote in the chat what it is I was going to say, that everything is happening for you. That's the one thing that somehow we resist. This happened, that happened. No, everything happens perfectly for us. What can you not accept? It's really a matter of acceptance rather than resistance. Resistance gives us the story. Who would you be without your story? You gotta laugh.
You'd be no one. It's
And
what we
what
are.
story would be good if it didn't have conflict? That's
Right.
the
It
thing.
has to.
The
Yeah.
whole purpose of the story is, and this is real funny because I know this is why it keeps coming up on my For You page, because I keep looking at it. But on TikTok, there's these Chinese dramas, and they're all about the the husband is cheating, or they're always CEOs, and they're always billionaires, and everything is lots and lots of money, and they're driving fancy cars, and all this kind of stuff. But then they find out that the husband's been cheating, or the wife's been cheating, or there's a mistress or whatever, and there's a lot of slapping around. They're slapping each other, and they're punching each other, and they're and it and it's like just a total shit show. I mean, seriously. But then, every time it comes on, I stop and watch it. And then, when it's over, I, scroll on. But the fact that I stop and watch it tells TikTok, hey, she wants to see this stuff. So then about every fourth reel, here's another one. or the child gets a lot of children get lost and then reappear 20 years later, and it turns out they're the family of the wealthiest family in the country, and I mean, and they've been mistreated all these years by their adopted parent, or there's, I mean, it's just like the whole, you name it, drama coming up. And it's so funny because I start watching it and then I get all judgy and I'm like, that bitch, why is she hitting him like that? Why is but and no wonder, I'm filled with conflict because I'm attracted to it. So, and it's the attraction to death, the attraction to guilt, Jesus tells us about it in the Course. We're attracted to these things. The ego is because it keeps it going. So,
but Dove was ahead of, like, the way I see Dove is he didn't have all that undoing. I still have a lot. Maybe he does. You don't talk about it, Dove, but it seems like you don't have.
No, Dove's had a lot of undoing.
Are you kidding me? I am Peck's bad boy. I mean, I'm as naughty as they come. Are you kidding?
Well, because I never see, you always seem like you just.
That is because I realized today I have two sides. The side that everyone at Gather knows, or in the Course or the Course community knows, and then there's the other side that nobody knows except the naughty ones. So
right. I hear
when
you.
When you are that divided, you have a lot of lessons to learn.
Every lesson is love or a call for love. That's the only thing that's coming through me, because it can't be anything else, right? It's always
right.
Love yourself. Yeah. And just accept. Yeah. But you have to get to see, I think for me, like when I was in Pal Talk in the beginning, I was so new. I came to, when I knew I needed God, it was like another story. Like, I don't know God. Everybody believes in God. And I'm Jewish. We had no Jesus. And so I went to synagogue, and then at the synagogue, the rabbi was talking about one of my cousins here that really put a bit of secret. So it was right then I was pushed out of there. And then I went to a church and I thought, So my son said, Mom, you're more interested in universal principles. And that's when I turned 50, Marianne came in he bought me her library, and that changed my life. And I was too scared to open the Course because it's so, first of all, it has a Christian tone to it. And it also was, Shakespearean writing. And I didn't have her. I was like, what is it saying? But I knew that this was the book that was supposed to be the book that was going to change my life. Now, the 12 Steps does too, because it's actually saying the same thing. The only thing it's not saying is you're not here.
Yeah.
But it's telling you forgive everything, and it gives you all those things. But I don't know where I'd be without this. But I consider ourselves not better, but blessed
to
have found this. You have to be blessed, because it's horrible here. I mean, if you look at us, it's horrible. And I help people that are on drugs. They're the mothers. Like, people help to me. I always made that as a commitment, because I had so much help. When I got here, everybody, like, it's just beautiful. Anyway, it's time for our